Community activist and advocate for human and civil rights, Elen Asatryan's purpose has always been clear: to leave a positive footprint for future generations, fight for social justice, human rights and equality, empower and protect the rights of women, minorities, the working class and small businesses, values that we all share. Elen, I consider healthcare a right. However, today the uninsured population is relatively larger. It's like every one of us has experienced hardships. Let's talk about your own experience.
Sure. Well, I think that given Obamacare, a lot more folks are insured, but our entire healthcare system is failing. And not failing just the low-income population, but more so the middle class who has to put their home on the market and possibly go bankrupt just because a loved one has fallen sick. I've experienced my own, nothing life-threatening, but some 8-9 years ago, I had a medical condition which required for me to do a lot of testing and then resulted in some treatment. And at the time I had health insurance, I was paying $360 a month for my premium, monthly premium, but yet the copays were so high that I ended up clearing out my entire savings account to be able to treat that. And all I could think about during that time was that at the very least, it's not life-threatening, at the very least, it's not cancer, and at the worst, I don't have to treat it if I don't have the funds. But overall, for anybody to be in that position is unacceptable to me. For a country that aids so many others in the world, I think it's very important for us to take care of our own first and to ensure that we're providing the resources everyday Americans need, and that the system is fair for people not to worry that their loved one's going to die because they can't afford to get them the treatment that they need.
Yeah, you mentioned system has to be fair because when we're paying an arm and a leg for premium,
correct,
and then later on, like you said, you had to use your savings.
In 1 year, I cleared out my entire savings account, and again, I wasn't in the hospital. This is basically just tests that needed to be ran, doctors I needed to see, and basic injection treatments that I needed to get. Again, my case was not severe. It was nothing detrimental to my life. But if I didn't have...
But emotionally it was.
But emotionally it was. But at that time, I was also living paycheck to paycheck. And even the $360 a month that I was paying, I was fortunate to be able to afford that. Most Americans that are living on minimum wage, have children and have families that they need to take care of. I really don't understand how they can even afford to do that.
They can barely...
Right, and not just for one person, but for their entire family.
Elen, numerous affordable housing projects have been developed using the affordable housing funding since its inception in 1975. What are the challenges we face?
I think California is actually facing a housing crisis. That's why we're seeing so many Californians leave California for other states that they can actually afford to buy a home, to actually be able to afford the rent. Just in my own hometown, when I look at Glendale, you've seen an influx of people that were born here, that grew up here, that are forced to move out, even to places like Sunland, Tahunga, and I'm not even talking about places like Utah and Nevada, because ultimately, at the end of the day, they can't afford to pay the very high rents. It's even more concerning about the future generations because young professionals and newlyweds are unable to afford to purchase their first home here. I think there is a dire need to do something, not just on the local levels, not to pass ballot measures to increase taxes, but to allocate proper funds on the state level for affordable housing. I think it's perhaps the #1 issue that California is facing, and that is very much tied to the homeless crisis that we're seeing, not just in California, but nationwide. And Asharis, I think that there are various avenues to reach that. not just for proper funding and the right kind of development projects that should be forced down from local governments and the state, but more so looking at creative ways of doing this. Not necessarily just through rent control, because we can see what happened in San Francisco and places like New York and even Santa Monica, where the idea of rent control was great, but at the end of the day, it left a whole lot of people that weren't grandfathered in out of that system. So ensuring that development projects moving forward in Los Angeles County or on the state level really incorporate a sufficient number of affordable housing units within each development. I think that should, at the very least, be a requirement for each of these entities.
Vision through time. Մուրադյան պատկերասրահը ներկայացնում է բազմաթիվ միջազգային ցուցահանդեսների մրցանակակիր, Ֆլորենցիայի Բիենալեի Լորենցո Մեդիչի անվան պատվավոր մեդալին արժանացած գեղանկարիչ Սամ Զումյանի անհատական ցուցահանդեսը բացումը սույն թվականի մարտի 13-ին ժամը երեկոյան 7-ին հասցեն 5211 Sunset Boulevard։ Վրձնահարվածների դինամիկա, գույների, լույսի ինքնատիպ համադրություն։ Հրավիրված է արվեստասեր հասարակությունը։ Գլենդելում է գտնվում Provident Lending Group Հարավային Կալիֆոռնիայի խոշոր հիպոթեկային բանկերից մեկը, որը 13 տարի շարունակ օգնում է ձեր տների եւ անշարժ գույքի ֆինանսավորման եւ վերաֆինանսավորման գործում։ Մեր մասնագետները իրենց գիտելիքով եւ փորձառությամբ վճռական են ձեր ֆինանսական խնդիրների շահավետ լուծման հարցում։ Fixed and adjustable rate home loans, conventional, jumbo, FHA, VA, bank statement, stated income, foreign national, hard money and much more. 21-day close guarantee։ Ժամադրության համար զանգահարեք 877 556 2655 կամ 818 543 6000։
Դավանա իրավաբանական փորձառու գրասենյակ։ Ընկերությունը, որը ունի հմուտ եւ պրոֆեսիոնալ փաստաբաններ, գլխավորությամբ Մարիամ Գյուրեղյանի, պատրաստ են ձեզ ծառայել մի շարք ոլորտներում՝ ճանապարհատրանսպորտային վթարներ, Uber-ի եւ Lyft-ի հետ կապված պատահարներ։ Ապահովելով բարձր որակ եւ վստահություն, մենք առաջարկում ենք մեր օգնությունը։ Գործունեության 13 տարիների ընթացքում ստացվել են միլիոնավոր դոլարների փոխհատուցում ի շահ հաճախորդների։ Վստահ եք մեզ, Davana Law Firm, ձեր հուսալի գործընկերը։
Ellen, you're a firm believer in giving voice to the Armenian underrepresented issues. What is significant today, and what has the process been like for you personally?
Sure. I don't think that issues pertaining and affecting Armenian Americans is any different than any other subculture and community that is within the Los Angeles County or really nationwide. It's the reason I actually got involved in politics. My first campaign was when I was 15 years old. I volunteered on a city council race and found passion and purpose in helping others realize that they have a voice in their own government. I think in the last 20 years, whether it's been through advocacy and running elections, one of my happiest moments, I can say, and it never gets old, is that moment that somebody that wasn't involved before, that wasn't registered to vote, or didn't realize that they can go to their state representatives, their congressional members, their local officials, and demand the things that they need, because at the end of the day, they're really the boss of that representative. And them realizing the power that they have within government is perhaps the most rewarding process that's really been for me. Within the Armenian community, in 1999, when I first got involved, the city of Glendale was very, very different. There was a lot of discrimination issues. The community wasn't properly represented, whether it was within government or in its sister bodies, whether it was the school board and so forth. So ensuring that we had proper representation, not just in the elected officials, but also staff. We had serious discrimination issues within the Glendale Police Department. And I'll have to tell you, during the Armenian Revolution, I was helping organize the rallies on Artsakh Street. And one of the last rallies, I didn't know how to close the rally because there was so much energy in the streets. I told everybody, you know, we're walking to the consulate, without realizing I'm guiding like 5,000 people without permits to walk down. And I have to tell you that walk between Artsakh Street and the consulate, and the way and the warmth that the Glendale Police Department greeted our community, I was in tears and crying, and they were like tears of joy, because I knew that had this happened 10 years ago, that would have not been the reaction that we would have seen. I made it a point to go to the Glendale City Council after and thank the police department and the chief, because I realized that all of that is a tone that is set at the top. And being involved in government doesn't mean just complaining about things, but also calling out things that are right.
And overall, it was an amazing experience.
It was incredible. But again, with issues pertaining to the Armenian community, I think it's the same things: electricity rates, traffic, healthcare, affordable housing, everything that applies to everyday Americans applies to our community.
Vision through time. Մուրադյան պատկերասրահը ներկայացնում է բազմաթիվ միջազգային ցուցահանդեսների մրցանակակիր, Ֆլորենցիայի Բիենալեի Լորենցո Մեդիչի անվան պատվավոր մեդալին արժանացած գեղանկարիչ Սամ Զումյանի անհատական ցուցահանդեսը։ Բացումը սույն թվականի մարտի 13-ին, ժամը երեկոյան 7-ին, հասցեն 5211 Sunset Boulevard։ Վրձնահարվածների դինամիկա, գույների, լույսի ինքնատիպ համադրություն։ Հրավիրված է արվեստասեր հասարակությունը։ Գլենդելում է գտնվում Provident Lending Group Հարավային Կալիֆոռնիայի խոշոր հիպոթեկային բանկերից մեկը, որը 13 տարի շարունակ օգնում է ձեր տների եւ անշարժ գույքի ֆինանսավորման եւ վերաֆինանսավորման գործում։ Մեր մասնագետները իրենց գիտելիքով եւ փորձառությամբ վճռական են ձեր ֆինանսական խնդիրների շահավետ լուծման հարցում։ Fixed and adjustable rate home loans, conventional, jumbo, FHA, VA, bank statement, stated income, foreign national, hard money and much more. 21-day close guarantee. Ժամադրության համար զանգահարեք 877 556 2655 կամ 818 543 6000։
Դավանա իրավաբանական փորձառու գրասենյակ։ Ընկերությունը, որը ունի հմուտ եւ պրոֆեսիոնալ փաստաբաններ, գլխավորությամբ Մարիամ Կյուրեղյանի, պատրաստ են ձեզ ծառայել մի շարք ոլորտներում՝ ճանապարհատրանսպորտային վթարներ, Uber-ի եւ Lyft-ի հետ կապված պատահարներ։ Ապահովելով բարձր որակ եւ վստահություն, մենք առաջարկում ենք մեր օգնությունը։ Գործունեության 13 տարիների ընթացքում ստացվել են միլիոնավոր դոլարների փոխհատուցում ի շահ հաճախորդների։ Վստահեք մեզ, Davana Law Firm, ձեր հուսալի գործընկերը։
Community activist and advocate for human and civil rights, Elen Asatryan's purpose has always been clear: to leave a positive footprint for future generations, fight for social justice, human rights and equality, empower and protect the rights of women, minorities, the working class and small businesses. Values that we all share. Since the feminist movement in the 19th century, we've come a long way. However, today women's rights are still suppressed. What more needs to be done?
It's actually absolutely critical for each of us to ensure that we're doing our part to make sure that women have a seat at the table. When it comes to women in politics, I can honestly say that I found myself the only woman in many rooms, and one of my purposes has been throughout these years is to ensure that I bring in and train and cultivate a whole new generation of young women, for them to be involved, for them to have a seat at the table. And I think that there's a need to not just within politics, but in general, change the culture and how women are viewed.
Let's talk about your own experience.
I've found myself a lot of times the only woman in rooms. I'll have to say that every time my position changed and I got promoted, I was possibly the only woman in the room. I've been joking, which is not funny, that one day I'm going to write a book and it's going to be entitled "It's Okay, She's One of the Boys," because it's a saying that I've heard time and again every time I've walked into a room, whether it's been a strategic meeting or some organizational meeting or whatnot, that is, the room is comprised of all men, and just so happens if there are new folks in that room, somebody who I may be close to, turns to the rest of the boys and says, it's okay, she's one of the boys. Like, I needed the clearance from one of them to be trusted, to feel comfortable around me. And so I think coupled with, I'll tell you a personal story from like a time that I first started. I was the executive director of an advocacy organization. It was my first board meeting. The meeting ended at like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. The board was comprised of all men, and of course, like I was like a young college graduate. We had all had coffee during the meeting, and when the meeting ended, all of them got up to leave. And in that moment, I looked at the table and realized they hadn't cleaned up their coffee cups. And so I turned around in a little sarcastic voice and said, "Where y'all going?" And they were kind of confused as to why I was asking. And I said, "Well, who's going to clean up the cups?" And one of them turned around and said, "Oh, you're one of those." My response to that was, I don't know what one of those is, but I'm the executive director and I'm not here to clean up the coffee cups. So I've never had an issue with, I'd be happy to clean up the cups. Nothing is below me if something needs to be done. But in those moments, I always think that if you don't say something, then you are setting a precedent for what's allowed. And if I didn't speak up, then I would be a hypocrite for everything that I believed in. And I hope that the young women that have been around me have seen that in action, and it has inspired them to also stand up for what's right for them and the positions that they serve. So creating a team atmosphere, and not one that is based on gender roles, and really the value of and assets that person brings to the table.
And I think married women are treated differently than the single ones.
I think it's not just a women's issue when it comes to that. I think that applies to both genders. But there definitely is, I think people break or put people in different categories. People that are younger, married versus single, and obviously gender and background. I do definitely think that single people are expected to do a whole lot more when those who are married or with children are not reached out to or as expected as much from them because they have responsibilities. And taking into account my own experiences, I highly doubt that I would be getting the 2, 3, 4 a.m. phone calls and text messages had I been married.
Ellen, March 3rd is around the corner. What do you expect from our community?
I expect what I've always expected, for them to fully participate in the electoral process, to take our voice from the streets of April 24th, where we had the historic march with 166,000 strong, to taking that strength and that voice to the ballot box where it really matters. Elected officials, candidates, always look at what subgroup of folks and communities participate in elections. If you are not participating in elections, then your voice and your needs are not going to be met. For those elected officials that are already elected, they need to get re-elected. And during that re-election process, they need to look at who they need to get the votes from. So if the Armenian community is not participating in large numbers, then we're allowing somebody else to make that decision for us. I think it's each and every one of our obligations to make sure not only we're participating, but ensuring that our friends, our family, are both registered and fully participating in the electoral process.
So the message is get out and vote.
Get out and vote. And I'll tell you, elections have changed. There's no longer an election day. They have 11 days to vote. So February 22nd through March 3rd, they can stop at 1,000 vote centers in LA County and vote.
At their convenience.
Yes.
Good luck on March 3rd.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we're going to celebrate your victory.
I hope so too. Only if people vote.
Community activist and advocate for human and civil rights Elen Asatryan's purpose has always been clear: to leave a positive footprint for future generations, fight for social justice, human rights and equality, empower and protect the rights of women, minorities, the working class and small businesses. Values that we all share. Vision through time. Մուրադյան պատկերասրահը ներկայացնում է բազմաթիվ միջազգային ցուցահանդեսների մրցանակակիր, Ֆլորենցիայի Բիենալեի Լորենցո Մեդիչի անվան պատվավոր մեդալին արժանացած գեղանկարիչ Սամ Զումյանի անհատական ցուցահանդեսը։ Բացումը սույն թվականի մարտի 13-ին, ժամը երեկոյան 7-ին, հասցեն 5211 Sunset Boulevard։ Վրձնահարվածների դինամիկա, գույների, լույսի ինքնատիպ համադրություն։ Հրավիրված է արվեստասեր հասարակությունը։
Դավանա իրավաբանական փորձառու գրասենյակ։ Ընկերությունը, որը ունի հմուտ եւ պրոֆեսիոնալ փաստաբաններ, գլխավորությամբ Մարիամ Կյուրեղյանի, պատրաստ են ձեզ ծառայել մի շարք ոլորտներում՝ ճանապարհատրանսպորտային վթարներ, Uber-ի եւ Lyft-ի հետ կապված պատահարներ։ Ապահովելով բարձր որակ եւ վստահություն, մենք առաջարկում ենք մեր օգնությունը։ Գործունեության 13 տարիների ընթացքում ստացվել են միլիոնավոր դոլարների փոխհատուցում ի շահ հաճախորդների։ Վստահ եք մեզ, Davana Law Firm, ձեր հուսալի գործընկերը։
Գլենդելում է գտնվում Provident Lending Group հարավային Կալիֆոռնիայի խոշոր հիպոթեկային բանկերից մեկը, որը 13 տարի շարունակ օգնում է ձեր տների եւ անշարժ գույքի ֆինանսավորման եւ վերաֆինանսավորման գործում։ Մեր մասնագետները իրենց գիտելիքով եւ փորձառությամբ վճռական են ձեր ֆինանսական խնդիրների շահավետ լուծման հարցում։ Fixed and adjustable rate home loans, conventional, jumbo, FHA, VA, bank statements, stated income, foreign national, hard money and much more. 21-day close guarantee։ Ժամադրության համար զանգահարեք 877 556 2655 կամ 818 543 6000։
Գլենդելի կենտրոնում, Հարվարդ եւ Մերիլենդ փողոցների անկյունում գտնվող նորաբաց My Salon գեղեցկության սրահը արդեն իսկ դարձել է ամենաոճային կանանց եւ տղամարդկանց սիրելի վայրը, որն առաջարկում է ամենօրյա, երեկոյան, տոնական եւ հարսանեկան վարսահարդարման ու դիմահարդարման յուրահատուկ ծառայություններ։ Ընդարձակ ու նրբաճաշակ սրահում գործում են անվանի եւ միջազգային ճանաչում ունեցող մասնագետներ։ My Salon, խնամված եւ գրավիչ արտաքինի ձեր գրավականը։
For advertising on Inside TV, please call 818-653-0199.